وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر wnzk راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on wnzk 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
And welcome Radio Baladi listeners to Radio Baladi Friday. It's the end of the week. It's the finish line. We're there, finally, right? It's been a tough week for me. I have no idea how it's been for you, but I hope it was well. I have with me in the studio today a great guest and a great friend, Betsy Cushman, who is a member of the League and a former president of the League of Women Voters in Dearborn Heights. The League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization that is a national nonprofit organization that was established in the beginning of the last century to promote voting rights and voter education as well. I will have also on the line with me Henry Ford College political science professor, Dr. Anthony Perry, who will be with us on the call. We wish he was with us in the studio, but he obviously had, like me, had kids to take to school, but we are happy to have them both with us here today to talk about the League, the importance of voting, the importance of voter engagement. And I would like to have a small introduction about our guest here, and then hopefully when Dr. Perry calls in, we will have his intro as well. Betsy is, as I mentioned, is a former president of the League. She is currently a member of the board of the League of Women Voters, and for the League of Women Voters in Michigan chapter. So we will be also on Facebook in a little bit. I'm just trying to get things posted here for our page on US Arab Radio. So if you're not going to be following us on the air, you can follow us on Facebook on US Arab Radio. You can also send your questions to the page. We welcome those questions to our guests, or if you have any questions about voting, about the League of Women Voters and its activities. We will go in deep today and talk about discussions about importance of giving fairness to all citizens to participate in the political process and what the League is doing for that. And there is something that is going on next month that we will be talking about with Betsy. I hope that you will enjoy this discussion. Again, to participate, you can also call us at the studio at 248-557-3300. Again, the number is 248-557-3300. Betsy, welcome to the program. I know you've been in the League for a long time. Just tell us more about yourself than what I said, and then we can go more into the League.
I was actually raised in the League of Women Voters because my mother was very active in the League of Women Voters, and I vowed I would never be. But of course, what we say when we're children is very different from what we say when we grow up. And I ended up joining this fall. It is 50 years exactly since I joined the League, and I was pregnant with my first child and home. And at that time, you couldn't get a job. If you were pregnant, they wouldn't hire you. So I worked volunteered myself for the League of Women Voters, and I found it's been a lifelong learning process because things are always changing. You always are learning new things and new ways to communicate with your community. And I believe so strongly in voting rights and getting people to know and care about their communities, to realize that at every level, these decisions that are made by the people you elect or you don't even end up voting for, but they're affecting your lives, and that is important at the local level in your local communities as it is in your county and in your state and in your country. So I really feel that at all levels there's so much to be learned and there's so many voices needed.
Betsy, thank you very much. If you can tell the listeners a little bit about the league, how it all started, give us just a little bit of perspective about the National League, and also about the Dearborn chapter, Dearborn Heights.
The League of Women Voters was born out of the women's suffrage movement in 1920 when women got the right to vote. As they began to see that it was going to pass, they could feel it, they knew they were going to get the right that year, they started saying, form leagues of women voters so you'll know how to use your vote wisely. Find out about candidates, find out about issues, study the issues, and find out where the candidates feel about these issues. So it started out as women's suffrage. It didn't take long when they realized that everybody wants to know, men, women, everybody wants to know, and eventually men became full-fledged members and active members, as Adel, you are, and we really appreciate all you do for the League of Women Voters.
It's a pleasure, yeah.
We have many people who want to contribute and learn, because we realize, I think now more than ever, that having rational decision-making is really important, having government, people who want good government. So the League of Women Voters is really our voice of good government from the people. We're nonpartisan. We never support or oppose the political candidate. Decision was made back in 1920 because they really had to make a decision. Are we going to support candidates who feel the way we do? And they decided, no, we are not going to, about a particular issue, because we are studying many issues. So we are simply supporting, not ever going to support or oppose candidates or political parties.
However, the league, Betsy, does stand on some major issues. So they do more of issues advocacy rather than,
Yeah, that's a good point. We really are two arms of the League of Women Voters. The nonpartisan, well, they're both nonpartisan, but the arm that does pure voter education, that's our voter service or voter education arm, the education fund. And then we have the League of Women Voters that does study and advocacy. And we do it in a pretty unique way because it's a grassroots organization that studies the issues. All of our members across, if it's a national issue, all the way across the country. If it's a state issue, we study all the leagues in the state. Local issue, it's a local study. And you come to consensus. And sometimes we don't even reach a consensus on a particular issue. But if we do study and reach a consensus, then we act on it, and then we can take a position to support, so that we may or may not support. If we feel our position covers a ballot proposal, then we will take a position for or against a ballot proposal.
Right. Betsy, many of the league members here in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, they try to spread more about the league activities. I do most of the time and kind of preach to people to join in. But tell us more about how Dearborn Heights started and ways to join the organization.
We were a part of the Detroit League, which started in 1920, the Dearborn Heights. The Detroit League covered the whole, really, southeast Michigan area, but there was a large members from Dearborn, so large membership. So they broke away in 1951, I think it was, okay, and formed their own league. And in fact, my mother was the president of the Detroit League when I was like 3 years old. And then she came over and eventually was president of the Dearborn Heights League as well as a state president. But anyway, the Dearborn League has really, I think it had like 130 members, maybe at its, a few years ago. Okay. And then Now, then it lost members. It was down to about 50, and now we're back up to around 130 again. So it's really wonderful, and we are pretty representative of our community, and our community is very dynamic. And so I'm very pleased with the people who see that this is an important way to participate in our democracy. You can certainly be active politically, because some people say, oh, I can't join the league because I support candidates. Well, no, you can. You can be on the board and support a candidate. What you can't do is be the president or the vice president or the voter service people and support or oppose candidates.
Okay, that's good to hear. We have actually Dr. Perry on the line. Dr. Tony Perry is a professor at Henry Ford College teaching political science. Dr. Perry, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. If you can give an introduction about yourself, that would be great. I just know of you from the league and that you teach at Henry Ford political science, and you're an avid professor there and an avid member for the league. If you can tell us more about yourself and why did you join the league?
Well, I ran into Betsy and another league member back in 2004 when they came to campus to see if we would, I think it was just help them with voter registration. And at that time, the associate dean, Henry Bowers, brought me into this meeting. It was my first semester there. I had been at Wayne State for previous 10 years. And I said, well, why don't we do more than that? And we started a collaboration which built into, over the last almost 15 years now, a series of different activities where we are trying to engage young people in the political arena, not necessarily in a partisan way, but in a small d democratic way. The idea is giving them an introduction, giving them some skills of participatory democracy, and getting them engaged, and hopefully eventually getting them to become members of the League of Women Voters.
Now, you teach politics, obviously. So does the League of Women Voters get into the conversations when you have lectures with, and talk about, obviously, voting rights? Is the policy for Henry Ford allow you to kind of preach for students to join in or at least get involved?
Well, I mean, the league is actually, when we say preach, when we talk about civil liberties and civil rights, the league is actually in many of our textbooks because of women's suffrage movement as being sort of the cornerstone of civil rights. And it's an excellent example of women's rights because women didn't have the right to vote, and they had to be able to create a coalition that went beyond women in order to get the right to vote, because the people that were voting to allow women the right to vote were not women. So they become an excellent example of participatory democracy and how people that have been excluded can be included in the system by their actions. And also, the league has an excellent nonpartisan resource in vote411.org for learning information about who's on your ballot, what are the issues, from all different sides. And they don't take positions or favor candidates. The candidates actually will submit their answers to these questions, and you'll find out where you can vote, where your polling location is, who's on your ballot, and other resources that are really important, because quite often when we look at the data, people go and vote for president, and they may know a little bit about the candidates for president, but when it goes further down in the ticket, they either don't vote, or oftentimes they don't know the candidates that are on their ballot. So it gives them a essential resource for participating in elections.
We'll actually talk a little bit about candidate forums and how they're being held and why they're being held in a little bit, but we have to take a commercial break. Part of the things that we do here at the radio needs to get paid, so we'll take a commercial break, and we will be back speaking about the League of Women Voters and its advocacy for voting rights.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
Are you ready to go back to get that degree you've always wanted? Is there a young person in your life looking for the right college? Are you ready to transfer to a four-year institution? Well, take a look at today's Marygrove College, a tradition of academic excellence right here, right now in the city of Detroit. Classes start September 5th. There's still time to apply for fall and get scholarships. Don't pass up this opportunity. marygrove.edu. Ahlan bikum fi Marygrove College.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects that provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
And welcome back, Radio Baladi listeners, on this beautiful Michigan Friday. This is Adel Mozip welcoming you back to the show. We're talking today about voting rights and the League of Women Voters and its advocacy on this issue, a very, very important issue. I have with me in the studio Miss Betsy Cushman, who is a board member of the League of Women Voters Michigan. She's also former president of the League of Women Voters in Dearborn Heights. And I have also on the line with me Dr. Perry, Dr. Tony Perry, who is a professor at Henry Ford College teaching political science. Thank you again both for joining. And if I can go to Betsy and ask her about the current activities and the former activities that the League does on an annual basis, if we can touch a little bit on those, and then we can get Dr. Perry to talk to us about what is happening on the college as far as voter engagement.
The League of Women Voters is probably best known before elections because people tend to go to the League of Women Voters. I hear it over and over again as I never vote until I see what's on Vote 411 or I see the voter guide. So, or go to a candidate forum or watch that on TV. So they really are prepared for the League of Women Voters at the election time. But in fact, all year round, we are doing election or education on voting issues and on other issues that are of really importance to our democracy. We start out the year, the Dearborn Heights League, with updating the list of elected public officials, which is called, in the Dearborn Heights League, we call it Who's Who, your elected officials. And people, they can't wait. We hand them out through libraries, we go to city halls, we go around the community to many locations.
And it's available on the website, too.
And it is available on the website as well. And people, it's such a handy thing to keep so that you will contact your legislators. This has all the information. I have to say I use this, even though for every other time I look up a phone number, I go online, I use this thing to contact my elected officials because I really, it's all in one place, and I can just go from one to another very easily to contact either Congress or state legislature
or local officials.
We also have educational programs, as you said, for the League, and currently we're working on one that we're so far calling it Stand Up, Protect the Vote, and it is on voting rights. We have a tentative date in October of the 23rd, but we will be getting out more information because we don't have it locked down for sure, but we really want to educate people and answer their questions about voting before this important local elections that are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to doing that program, and that one we'll end up with having people there address postcards about past legislation that your constituents can participate fully. So we want to allow early voting in Michigan, same-day registration in Michigan, and online voter registration in Michigan. So we want these things to happen. Then right now we have a date for a Dearborn candidate forum, which will be on October 3rd. That's a Tuesday. In the first the first forum will be at 5:30 for the city clerk's office, and then the next one will be at 6:15 for mayoral candidates, and then 7:15 all 14 council candidates. So all have accepted. It's going to be in the Dearborn Administrative Center in the City Council chambers. We had such a huge turnout for the primary candidate forums that we have the city has offered to have an overflow area with seating for, I'm thinking she said 150, 200 people. So she, hopefully.
Yep, it was very crowded.
It was very crowded. We are really pleased that there is that interest. It is important for people to hear. I mean, because I personally, when I'm doing League of Women Voters work, I'm never thinking who I'm going to vote for. I'm really thinking making sure that they are all getting equally treated well and are all responding and participating. So then when I try to make up my mind myself, I'm looking at how are they? I love to go in person to the candidate forum and just see how they interact. That part you don't know until you really see them.
It. Right.
Seeing it online is good, but you don't see all the other parts. Yes.
The League of Women Voters does also registration of new voters. So the people who turn 18, the League does go to high schools, and obviously, Betsy, you're a huge part of that. So
this is our first. We've been doing this for 5 years now, and in the spring we contact all the schools, high schools in the area, Dearborn and Dearborn Heights, who have a presence here. And so it's public schools and private schools, and we train a group of us, and I think we had 30 volunteers last year going to different schools and registering students to vote. But what we really like is getting into the classroom, which we've been more successful at, just for a short time, but to use that time to tell the students that we care, that they are voting and that their vote counts. And we have an exercise we do where they stand up and then you sit down. If half the room sits down, if you didn't register to vote and you were eligible, because that's about only half the people, young people, register to vote who could be registered to vote.
Right, and to ask Dr. Perry about this, the lowest generation or the lowest age group that votes are actually the younger folks. So, Dr. Perry, why do you think that's also a reoccurring issue in all the elections where young voters or young people do not turn out to vote and go to the polls, or they don't vote absentee? Why do you think that's an issue for young voters?
Part of it is it's the chicken and the egg issue. They don't feel that elected officials care about their concerns, and then when they don't vote, the nature of politics is who's going to vote, and should I really care about their concerns if they don't vote? And, the concerns, for instance, for senior citizens is often highlighted because we know that they are the greater percentages of the voters. They play a huge role. So, for instance, it makes it very, very challenging to make any changes to programming that is going to impact those people who always vote. That's considered political suicide. So that's part of the reason. I think another part of the reason is experience. We have had in Michigan for the longest time, you'd have to take a civics course in high school. That's not necessarily ubiquitous across Michigan any longer. There are areas where you don't have to do that. But it used to be your senior year, you'd be taking it, you'd be getting registered to vote, and the idea was, if you're going to be a good democratic citizen, you need to have some basic understanding of the system of government and so forth. Today, what we're experiencing coming into the colleges is virtually no understanding of the basics. And so we're starting from where we thought we would have had them coming from a different vantage point out of high school. So that's a bigger challenge. So they don't even know, well, who is my mayor and why should I vote for this person over that person? They don't even have a context. So that's where the league and what we do at the college come in to be extremely important aspects of strengthening democracy. If we don't have these vehicles, we're really going to be hurting.
So registering, obviously you said experience there, and it's very important to know that, sometimes young folks do not really care until it affects them, right? So that doesn't happen until a later age when you own a house and you have an ordinance or you have something and you have to contact your official and be like, oh man, I need to start voting and getting, some people in office who really care about my issues, or that a councilman is really good, listened to my concerns. So usually younger folks, is it because they don't have a stake in it? That's why they're not voting or they're not involved unless they're really passionate about it or somebody pushes them to do it? Do they have to have a stake in order to be involved? I'm trying to get why people are not voting at a younger age.
They have a stake in it. They may not realize they have a stake in it. Mm-hmm. Part of this is exposure. If you think in terms of young people, not all young people are even becoming exposed to this until later on in life. But for instance, one of the examples I use is I look at the higher education allocation in the state of Michigan budget, which today is about $1.21 billion. And when you look at that, it sounds like a lot of money. And we're talking about the allocation that are going to the four-year universities. This is absent of community college. But community college has similar numbers in terms of over time. People think that that's a lot of money. But when you compare it to where we were in 1989, we're actually at the same dollar value, but about 23% in real value in terms of the budget. So we've seen politicians in Lansing consistently not fund education. And what does that mean to students? Well, that means that more money is coming out of their pocket to pay for their education. And that means loans, possibly, or working or deferring education. And so it does impact them. They just aren't aware of why these things occur. And, it's our job to obviously, get them to start exploring these things more systematically.
Yep.
Tony, can I add to that? Because I really feel that when I go out into, this is a large group of us, when we go into the classrooms and talk to students who are 18 or 17, about to be 18, they sometimes you can see their eyes are like, why are you coming into our room and talking about, registering to vote? But you can see their eyes change as you talk to them about these issues affect you. And when they start saying, when you talk about what might be of interest to them, and sometimes that's international, like they know they could be drafted if things go really bad in the government. So they'll ask, some classrooms really, the students are like, so what are the views of the people running for president? That's in a presidential election year or congressional election. But so that those issues, some students are really aware, and you can see in any case that when you say, you can have a say, if so few people take the time to call their legislator, like a state legislator. If you did, you would make such a difference. And if you got a group of students together and you went up and visited your state legislator, you would be welcomed. It's like it would bring it home to them. And so young people, they could have so much power. It's all there because they're going to have years of voting. So elected officials would want to respond to young people if they were going to get active. So that's part of what I think the League of Women Voters does in the schools is so important, is that the students that we do talk to, I think it makes a difference.
Yep. We do have a call, and he's been patiently waiting, so I thank him for that. Our frequent participant, Mr. Jerry Habba, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Adel A, for taking my call. Good morning to you, sir, and good morning to your distinguished guests. I believe Professor Betsy and Dr.
Dr. Perry is the professor, and Betsy is the League Women of Voters board member.
Thank you. My respect to both of them.
Thank you.
And I do have a question, please. One for Ms. Betsy and one for Dr. Perry. Ms. Betsy, as a League of Women for Voters, I want to ask you, and I would love to hear your answer sincerely, and I believe we will do. During the presidential election, we saw Mr. Donald Trump, Ms. Hillary Clinton, Senator Bernie Sanders. Is the League of Women was affected when they saw there was a woman running for the position of President of the United States? That's part one. Part two, is your organization reach out international to defend right of women in some countries where there is no right for women for voting and no right for women to drive a car? So that's to you, Ms. Betsy. To Dr. Rani, we noticed that there was a lot of group of young students, young men and women. They went for Senator Bernie Sanders, and he has a very welcome by those used to support him. And I would like that answer from Dr. Perry. Thank you very much, and thank you for
Mr. Habba, for always joining our program and asking.
Appreciate you, Mr.
Awesome
Adel.
Thank you so much. Betsy, with his first question.
I'll listen to you from the radio.
Sure, thank you.
That's a very good question, and we've been asked, members of the League of Women Voters, the question about were we especially excited that there was a woman running for president? And I would say that we were very glad to see that there are women need to be represented. We make up about half this country, and we should be represented in the candidates. Whether or not you elect the woman, we want the most qualified candidate to win. We want the one who reflects the wishes of the democracy should win. So I would say that that's not, we don't take a position, and I don't think that there was, I don't know.
So there was
excitement,
but the league doesn't. But the league doesn't
support or oppose any candidates.
Right.
So it was not about that. Just that it's important that we have women running for office. We need to do more to encourage all women to consider running for office.
Locally speaking, if we look at our council, we only have one councilwoman who is a president.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she is the president, but she's still one of 7.
Right.
So hopefully, in November elections, things will change and we have more diverse representation as far as gender-wise.
And
your his second question was very interesting about the League of Women Voters. Do they do anything internationally to promote women's rights to vote?
Our history says, yes, we were very involved. And in fact, Eleanor Roosevelt was a active member of the League of Women Voters. And so you can go on to our national website and see that history. It's fascinating. And she helped get the United Nations going as a part of the League of Women Voters, being the first NGO for the United Nations. So the League has had a history of that, and we have studied and have positions to support it. But we have had to do prioritizing, as I think all organizations, nonprofit, have, of how do we spend our money and our time. And I think our priorities are democracy in this country, but that ties into democracy around the world. It is important. We would cooperate and support efforts. We do support immigration reform. We do care about issues, but I don't think that we're really that active beyond our borders.
Right. For Dr. Perry, there was a nice question, and it's not so much related to the league, but what was the secret or behind the excitement of young people behind Senator Bernie Sanders when he was running for president, from your view?
If you think in terms of the change in the global system, part of this has to do with the success of industrialization. We've seen in the United States a growing disparity between those who have and those who do not have. And young people, they see these things. They're not, well, when I say that they're not experienced in politics, it doesn't mean that they're not aware of issues that, and Senator Sanders basically said that Senator Clinton, or Secretary Clinton, was part of the old guard and did not speak to kind of looking at the fact that the current way that we were going to divide people even further. And young people were worried about the future. They're worried about whether or not, even if they have a degree, whether they're going to be able to have the American dream as people are mounting up debt and not getting jobs that are able to pay off that debt. There's that issue. And I think that he spoke on the issue. So it wasn't him himself, but it was it was the agenda that he was advocating. And if you look at Hillary Clinton's sort of move, is that she adopted a lot of Bernie Sanders issues the second half of the campaign because he was really speaking to the constituents. And this is where, the idea of political campaigns and people becoming engaged is really important, because if people are engaged, they can push the issues in a way that are having them addressed. If people aren't engaged, then whoever is engaged, it may be a small set of elites, they're setting the agenda. And the agenda is the priorities of what candidates hope to do once they're elected. So I think that when we look at something like Bernie Sanders, it was that response. He was speaking to their issues, to their concerns, and Secretary Clinton was part of the establishment, and it was easier for Bernie Sanders, who, for all intents and purposes, was considered an outsider. He ran as a independent in Vermont to become senator. He'd been caucusing with the Democrats. He had never really considered himself a member of the Democratic Party, but it was a challenging of the system. And
I think he spoke resonated with young people because of that, of being not so partisan and trying to advocate and being very progressive on many issues as far as healthcare, as far as education and free college. Those things, got young people excited, although he's, a 70-year-old or a 71-year-old senator from Vermont. So it was very interesting, kind of makeup of him coming out. Not out of nowhere, has been really known in the political arena in Washington, but to the international country, nobody heard of Bernie Sanders until that year. And as you said, Clinton did adopt some of his ideas into her campaign, but a lot of people, young folks that I've talked to, they felt they were shunned, and that Bernie Sanders was kind of, the Democratic Party kind of took the nomination from him, and he was supposed to be the candidate, so they ended up not voting, and we saw the result. So
the amazing thing is if the Democratic Party had allowed more people to, had encouraged a more representative field from the very beginning, and you say would have had similar numbers of candidates that the Republicans did, and the Democrats didn't have that. They only had a few candidates. Bernie Sanders never would have been heard. It was because they had such a small field that his message got out there and was attractive. I mean, he was responding to concerns that
right.
young people have, and he was able to get it heard because it was basically him and Senator or Secretary Clinton as the final two for much of the campaign.
Right. And again, this is my view and not of anybody's. In my personal capacity, I think that still Democrats, if they really want to win, they have to change their own system of doing things, because that system of getting super delegates and all of that good stuff, it was just, to young people, it was just like upsetting. So thank you, Dr. Perry. That was really interesting and very informative. We're gonna go back now and talk about the league activities, and we will have to take another commercial break. And once we come back, we will talk about the upcoming candidate forums. How are these held? What sort of questions and how the questions are being formed to ask those candidates. And we're going to talk also about how, if you have not registered to vote, how can you register to vote, and the information that is available for you once you go to the polls, where to go as far as information about candidates and about issues alike. So we will go for a commercial break, and we will be back.
When it comes to reproductive medicine, IVF Michigan Fertility Centers are the recognized leaders. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 5 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. As a founding member of IVF Michigan Fertility Centers, Dr. Nicholas Shama is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. Dr. Shama has performed over 10,000 IVF cases and has helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. American board certified in both obstetrics obstetrics and gynecology and reproductive endocrinology and infertility, Dr. Nicholas Sharma is a very caring, compassionate, expert physician that understands not only the medical but also the emotional toil of infertility on his patients. When it's time, get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Sharma at IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio. Call toll-free 855-952-9600, 855-952-9600. The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
New concept, products, and design.
بإدارة ناجي عبود. هل تحتاج فتح مطعم؟ هل تحتاج فتح محل المواد الغذائية؟ هل تحتاج تصاميم وخرائط؟ اتصل بناجي عبود على الرقم 734-744-9796. هل تريد شراء معدات المطابخ والمطاعم وبأسعار مخفضة وتسهيلات بالدافع؟ اتصل بناجي عبود الآن على الرقم 734-744-9796. خصم 5% عند الشراء ب75,000 أو أكثر على كافة المواد. لمزيد من المعلومات زوروا موقعهم الإلكتروني على
www.newconceptproducts.com
أو زوروهم في موقعهم الجديد
31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia.
ناجي عبود، العلامة المميزة في عالم المطابخ.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
لايف للإغاثة والتنمية تقدم النجم الصاعد المتميز أمير دندن وسفيرها للنوايا الحسنة الفنان الكبير أحمد فهمي، وعروض شيقة لفرقة تراب بلادي للفلكلور في عدة حفلات في أمريكا: دالاس، هيوستن، تامبا فلوريدا، فيرجينيا، أوهايو، نيو أورليانز، بالإضافة إلى المدن التالية. للمزيد من المعلومات زوروا الموقع الإلكتروني lifeusa.org أو الاتصال بالرقم المجاني 1-800-827-3543.
And welcome back, Radio Baladi listeners, to this Friday broadcast, and we're talking about voting rights and the League of Women Voters. I have with me in the studio Miss Betsy Cushman, who is a board member of the League of Women Voters Michigan. She's also a former president of the League of Women Voters in Dearborn Heights. And with me on the phone, Dr. Anthony Perry, who is a professor of political science at Henry Ford College. And before the show, we were just talking about the election of last year. So moving forward to this year's municipal elections, and a lot of people do not turn out to vote in municipal elections, and that's an issue because I've always said it, that politics are always local. They start local and they go up, and we should be all very, very concerned, perhaps even more concerned about local elections than or like congressional and presidential. They're as important. Local elections actually impact you on a daily basis. So whether you own a house or a business or you're a student or whatever you are, elections do affect you, and people in office do make the decisions for you when you elect them. So I'd like to hear from Betsy about efforts to have a higher voter turnout in those kind of they call them off-year elections. I call them important elections. So What is the league doing to make sure that, the word is spread and that there is elections this year on November 7th for the general elections?
First of all, we're doing our standard important voter education, which is having a candidate forum and having a voter guide, both paper copies and online, vote411.org. We have a wonderful support from our community so that we have every candidate who's really running has answered our voter guide, and so we started with new questions for the voter guide for this November election. So that should be going live next week, perhaps, maybe the week after, so that you can go online to Vote 411 and see the candidates that are in your area. The wonderful thing about Vote 411 is that you put in your address, and it only brings up the races that you can vote for, so you don't have to try to remember what district you're in or what city even. It comes right up. A lot of people don't know. Then, what was your question?
So, to still register for the vote, to vote in this November elections. Obviously, if you have voted in a previous election, you don't have to register again. And a lot of people ask me, is this a different election? Do we have to register for it? So once you register to vote, it's one registration. And hopefully one day we will have an online registration where you fill out your information, you submit it online, you get accepted, you get your voter registration in the mail, and you get also an email confirming that you're a registered voter. Hopefully one day in Michigan we will get to that.
Hopefully we will. October 10th is the deadline if you are not registered to vote. You have until October 10th to register. And I recommend that you go to your local clerk's office, wherever that is, your municipal clerk. It could be a city clerk, could be a township clerk, or your county. You can go to the Secretary of State's office, any of those that work out most conveniently for you. It is the nice thing about going in person is that the first time you vote, then you can vote absentee if it turns out you can't get to the polls that day. So that's something that doesn't happen when we register students to vote in the high schools. So that's why I'm very sensitive to, they could do something to have us be certified as part of the local clerks races, so that when we register students to vote, they could be, because many of them are going away to school, and voting the very first time is going to be away.
Right. And research shows that when you vote the first time, you're most likely to vote the second time, right?
Yeah, the rest of your life.
If you miss the first year after you're registered, probably you won't vote at all because you forget that you're registered anyway. But if you do vote, you kind of reaffirm that commitment that you're going to be voting. And it's a culture, in European countries, probably it's higher than, American politics, where their voter turnout is in the high 70s, high 80s, where for us, we're still, especially locally here, looking at 50%, 60%. But on a presidential year, we do get to 70, 80. But on an off year or on an election municipal year, Do
you know the figures for the primary election?
Yes.
I mean, 17.5% in Dearborn Heights and 22.3% that's only of registered voters.
Right.
So it's really important. You can make a difference. Just get your neighbors and all show up to vote, and you can sway the election, because a few votes will make a difference in a local election.
Dr. Perry, if you can tell us, off the top of your head, if close races were determined by just a handful of votes, how important is that?
I've seen a race determined by one vote.
One vote.
And when we start looking at voter turnout, consider the fact that in 2008, President Obama, basically more people voted for President Obama than any other president in the history of the United States. And we had the greatest voter turnout in nearly 40 years in 2008. However, more people stayed home did not vote and voted for President Obama. So, I think, Adele, you actually overestimated voter turnout. It's actually much lower. Roughly in presidential years, if we approach 60%, that's a high voter turnout. When we look at the state races, and I think the state races, even more than the local races, are vital in Michigan because the state provides things like revenue sharing to the local communities, and the local communities can't do their job if those are cut. And in state races, the last state race, we had 40% turnout. So 60% of Michiganders stayed home in 2014. And that basically means that the winner is winning with about 21% of the eligible voters. Very low voter turnout.
It's sad reality, but hopefully that will change in the future. I do have hope in the upcoming generation, and people are starting to be aware, especially when things affect them personally. Then they start thinking, "Oh, I am supposed to vote." When I hosted the candidates here, they are aware, and elected officials are aware. When you go and you have an issue, and you're trying to resolve, or you write to your legislature, they actually look up your voting history, and they see if you're voting. If you're not voting, then they're gonna say, "Why would I pay attention to this person who's not even gonna, affect my election one way or another?" So it's very, very important that we do vote in every election. Every election matters, and it's very important. If it's not gonna affect you today, it will definitely affect you in the future. So, again, for people who haven't voted, who haven't registered to vote, you can still register for the upcoming election. And Betsy, correct me, it's October 10th is the last day. It's a Tuesday, right?
Right.
It's always a Tuesday, the last day to register to vote, and it's always like a month before the election.
Right.
So if you have not registered to vote, I hope that you would go to your city clerk. You can even print out the form online, and then you can send it in. You have to send it in. You cannot send it by email. You cannot send it by, fax or anything. You have to put it in an envelope, or you take it in with you and go to your city clerk or township clerk or your secretary of state, whatever is nearest to you, and you give them the application. Then in return, they will give you your voter registration form in the mail, or a voter registration card, right? And you don't have to vote with that. You can vote with any identification, right? So there is also, I wish we had more time to talk about voter suppression, but I know Betsy has something to say, and we have just a few minutes to close. So, Betsy, what's up with...
I wanted to say that acceptable photo IDs when you go to the polls as a driver's
license,
or is a driver's license or a state issued card, federal or state government issued photo ID, U.S. passport, military identification with photo, student ID with a photo, and tribal identification card with a photo. So I know that.
And even if you don't have any of these, you tend to forget you can still vote. And you vote with
an affidavit.
So you would have to sign an affidavit to say that you are who you are, right? And then that ballot then will be counted once it's verified, right?
Right.
So voting is available. I hope people take charge and register to vote. And I have a sticker on my car, and my other car, not this one that I'm driving today, that has the League of Women Voters logo, and it says that democracy is not a spectator's sport, right?
Oh, that's
vote, right?
Yes.
So and as former President Obama said, vote, don't vote, and I hope you will do too. It was nice having you, Betsy. Nice having Dr. Perry. Thank you so much, Mike, for your technical support, and to everybody, have a great Michigan weekend. Bye bye.